What makes a good Pokemon character design? Let's find out. A good character design can be simple or complex as long as there's a coherent design pattern and theme. Generally, you'll find more simpler character designs in the first few generations, while more adventurous designs later on. A good example of simple character designs are both Gary and Professor Oak. Although wearing simple clothing, their main design element, being the iconic hairstyle, is easily recognizable in either the drawings or the original game's pixelated sprites. Oak is literally wearing a lab coat over office clothing with sandals. Since they aren't complicated characters, there isn't anything special about the designs other than the fact that they're related, which is the most identifiable feature. A bad example is Archie from the original Gen 3 games. He's basically wearing a suit and bandana with his team's logo, which doesn't really express anything about him or the type of organization he rules. Contrast this to Lysander, which is also another bad simple design, but for more obvious reasons. A good example of a more complicated design is Gen 7's Guzma. Guzma is rocking a more daring color scheme, being black and white from head to toe. His clothes have a clear color and design pattern that is easily identifiable as to what he is, being a Slav gangster of sorts. The only exception to the color changing is in the accessories, which are all gold, and the purple tattoo, further distinguishing him from the lower ranked members but remaining coherent to the design and theme. Compare this to Leon and his younger brother, who have a similar connection as Gary and Professor Oak. They obviously went for a more complicated design choice, but there's a few things wrong. First of all, anything and everything was used on Leon. He's wearing football-inspired shoes, stockings, and shorts, having a white, black, and yellow color pattern, but his upper half completely ditches this color scheme, rocking a black sport tee with a blue sword and red shield on it. Then he has this king's cape that's completely different theme to being a champion of a sport, as well as having an unholy amount of sponsors on the back, accompanied with his, dare I say, cringe hairstyle, all the while wearing a cap. The only similarity he has to his brother is his eye and hair color, which again don't complement the rest of his design at all. His theme as the champion is portrayed too obnoxiously while still having unrelated and incoherent design choices like his weird purple hair and king's cape. Undoubtedly, Leon is my least favorite designed character. The Pokemon art style has modernized with the franchise over the years. From Gens 1 to 3, they all had very square, boxy, and simple designs to their faces and clothes. Eyes were sharper and less defined, and colors were less loud. It wasn't until late Gen 3 in Fire Red and Leaf Green and onwards did we start to see more saturated colors in clothing, as well as normal body proportions and slightly more rounded faces and design features. This style was prevalent until around X and Y, where they started to make the eyes even more defined and rounded. They also started to give more characters different shades of skin tones and generally using more conventional styles of clothing. Sun and Moon continued this theme, but also made more daring choices with eye shapes and oversaturation of colors, as well as even more rounded designs. Sword and Shield follows Gen 7 by having the occasional different eye choices and super vibrant color schemes, but sometimes it goes way too far and becomes a ball of paint vomit. Some of Gen 9's character designs look like Detective Pikachu, but I'll save my judgment until the game comes out. Personally, I do prefer the character designs of Gen 3 to 5, as although they do have less conventional clothing, their proportions are normal, as well as having less crazy hairstyles and color combinations. But I also do love the original art styles of Gens 1 to 3. There's something appealing about that old 90s anime art with everyone kinda looking very similar. While Gen 6 to 8 became more chibi-like with its more ridiculous hairstyles, crazy color combos, and more softer anime design features. I like it when character designs are more grounded in a basic and coherent design choice, instead of flashy and abstract like those seen in the later gens. The main design themes of a character are all centered around their purpose. A character's purpose can be expressed in subtle ways depending if the identity of the character is meant to be kept more ambiguous and or expressed very blatantly. A good example is Giovanni. Although a very simple design, he matches his theme of being a mafia boss well, as usually they don't wear anything too flashy other than a nice suit, making his character's purpose as the main villain very easily identifiable. A bad example is the Sword and Shield's male protagonist. All the other male protagonists wear some sort of outdoorsy style clothing and bags with colors either relating to their game's cover art or something more easily identifying the character as the conventional model Pokemon trainer of that region. These subtle visual language cues are intended to give more information than, let's say, the other less important side trainers, as they are literally the faces of their respective games. But the male protagonist of Sword and Shield fails to convey his main design purpose from lack of having any sporting gear on. Rather, a completely casual look with a briefcase for a bag. They could have given him a Wimbledon-style tennis flannel shirt, accompanied with some football-style shorts and high socks, and literally anything else. I get you can change the appearance and outfit of the trainer in-game, but this is just taking into account the original artwork. Contrast this to the female protagonists who can get away with a more casual and stylistic look instead of something blatantly outdoor related. So then, what makes a good Pokemon design, and are they getting worse? You can find out in the video in the end card.